Or should we call them pun cakes?
What's up, you viewers of animated history? Today we're doing a list that will challenge your perception of motherhood. We're talking about the women who failed so spectacularly at their fundamental role, they earned a permanent place in the Hall of Shame. We're counting down the top 5 worst mothers in cartoon history. We'll be digging into details of their most unforgivable acts and exploring their mindsets, and the impact of their animated cruelty. These are the mothers who prove that a nurturing figure can sometimes be the most dangerous force of all. Let's get into it. Kicking off our list at number 5 is a woman who proves that obliviousness can be just as destructive as active malice. Timmy's mom, Mrs. Turner from Nickelodeon's The Very Odd Parents. She's a parent whose profound neglect and self-absorption can create a constant state of danger and emotional isolation for her son. She's just as bad as her husband. Mrs. Turner seems to exist in a world completely separate from her child's reality. She is so caught up in her own hobbies and petty grievances, she is consistently blind to Timmy's ongoing torture and neglect. What makes Mrs. Turner a terrible mom? Mrs. Turner views Timmy with a profound disinterest, seeing him as less as a son with needs and more as a peripheral figure in her own self-absorbed world. Her treatment of him is defined by extreme neglect and emotional detachment, as she consistently prioritizes her own trivial hobbies over his safety, happiness, and well-being. While a mother who is merely absent and oblivious is terrible, our number 4 is actively present, and her presence is often a source of deliberate cruelty. Striding in at number 4 is the supposed moral compass of Quahog, the matriarch of the Griffin clan, Lois Griffin from Family Guy. While often played for laughs, Lois' parenting is a genuinely horrific mix of incompetent and mean streak that will make you sick to your stomach. Lois' parenting is defined by unpredictable, childish, and often cruel behavior. She's a mother who joins in on the neglect with her husband. She often uses her family as a means to an end. While she seems to love Stewie, Chris, and Peter, they are almost always overshadowed by her truly terrible actions. What makes Lois a terrible mom? Lois Griffin views Meg with a constant and profound sense of aspiration, often treating her as a punchline or a source of embarrassment rather than a daughter. She rarely defends Meg from the family's relentless bullying, instead often participating in her own public humiliation and viewing her as an unfortunate inconvenience. Lois can be surprisingly ruthless and self-serving, often dragging her kids into her schemes and using them as leverage in her bizarre social climbing attempts. A mother who's passively terrible is one thing, but what about a mother whose neglect is a byproduct of her own profound unhappiness? Our number 3 shows us the dark side of that tragedy. At number 3 is the matriarch of the perpetually perplexed Oblong clan, a mother who defines rough around the edges with the subtlety of a collapsing house. Pickles Oblong from Adult Swim to Oblongs. If neglect had a face, it would probably be wearing Helga's perpetually weary expression and holding a half-smoked cigarette. Pickles is a testament that sometimes life just kicks you in the shins, repeatedly. Unfortunately, her way of coping involves a potent cocktail of questionable substances and a general detachment from her daily dramas of her uniquely challenged offsprings. Her brand of motherhood is not abuse, but about a soul-crushing neglect born from addiction and unhappiness. What makes her a terrible mother? Her most what just happened moments includes substance-induced slumber. It's not uncommon for Helga to be otherwise occupied while her children navigate the toxic landscape of their town. A general air of whatever happens, happens. Her approach to child care seems to be a shrug and a mumble. They'll figure it out, which seems to be fair given their circumstances. They often have to. The kids are alright, and maybe, despite their blatant neglect, the Oblong kids are surprisingly resilient, a testament to their own resourcefulness, not exactly Helga's stellar mothering. A mom who's barely present is rough, but what about a mom who's hyper-present and hyper-controlling? Our number 2 shows us the dark side of smother love, wiping off her sweet grin to reveal the sneering villain underneath. At number 2 is the two-faced tyrant who uses motherhood as a weapon of corporate greed and control, Mom for Futurama. Mom is the CEO of MomCorp, a ruthless, greedy, and evil woman who uses her public persona as a kind old lady to mask her true malevolent intention. Mom's brand of motherhood is not about nurture. It's about power, control, and a terrifying and insatiable hunger for money. She has 3 sons, Walt, Larry, and Ignar, whom she sees not as her sons, but as pawns in her grand schemes for corporate domination. Her motherly love is conditional, and she has no qualms about using her children as bargaining chips, marrying them off to political alliances or even threatening them with death if they disobey her. What makes Mom a terrible mom? Her most heinous acts includes tyrannical rule and manipulation, using fear and her immense power to force them into submission. She's a mother who would gladly eat her own children for a slice slice of cake or a moment of power. Masterful manipulation. She uses her public persona as a kind old lady to mask her true malevolent intentions. She is a master manipulator who uses her children to do her bidding. She is a mother who is physically and emotionally abuses her children. This woman is a monster, but can you believe there is someone even worse? A mother whose love is so dark, so monstrous, and so otherworldly that she will rather eat her own children's soul than let them be free. And finally, for our number one, we have the single most vile and universally despised mother in cartoon history, a mother whose cruelty is so grounded in realism, so profoundly soul-crushing that it leaves a more lasting impression than any literal monster. Beatrice Horseman from BoJack Horseman. Beatrice is a failed socialite and a bitter, emotionally distant woman who saw her son as not as a child to be loved, but as a rival, an obstacle, and a constant reminder of her own unfulfilled desires. Her brand of evil isn't fireballs or a fishbowl. It's the quiet, relentless, and suffocating weight of emotional abuse and neglect. What makes Beatrice a terrible mother? Her most haunting acts include constant emotional abuse and belittling. She frequently shames and berates BoJack, criticizing him for being too much like his father and for not being the ideal son she imagined. She never offered love and encouragement, only criticism, which fundamentally shaped BoJack's self-loathing personality. Extreme hypocrisy and neglect. She saw her family as a burden, a thing she was forced into. She created a toxic home where her children were merely objects to be ignored or mistreated. Through her actions and words, Beatrice taught BoJack that love is conditional, happiness is impossible, and that the only way to deal with your own pain is to inflict it on to others, passing her own generational trauma down to her son. This woman is truly a monster. So there you have it, 5 mothers who prove the worst things in life don't always come from your father, it comes from your mother. What do you think? Did I miss any of these monster moms? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video and you want more deep dives for cartoon content, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next video. I'll see y'all later.